Have you ever heard of the Lufthansa Airlines Flight 181 hijacking of 1977? You see, Lufthansa Airlines Flight 181, also known as the Land Shoot, was a scheduled flight from Palma de Mallorca, Spain, to Frankfurt, Germany, on October 13, 1977. The flight was operated by a Boeing 737 with 86 passengers and crew members on board. The hijackers, a group of 4 members of the militant group Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, External Operations, PFLP-EO, boarded the flight in Spain under false identities. Their goal was to carry out a hostage situation to secure the release of imprisoned members of the German terrorist group, the Red Army Faction, RAF, also known as the Baader-Meinhof Group. The hijacking began shortly after takeoff when the 4 hijackers, armed with pistols and explosives, seized control of the plane. They immediately announced their demands, which included the release of RAF members held in German prisons, the safe passage of the hijackers, and the provision of millions of dollars in ransom. The hijackers, led by a man named Captain Mohammed Ali Hamadeh, were experienced terrorists, and their plan was both well-organized and ruthless. The passengers and crew were quickly held at gunpoint, and the hijackers took control of the cockpit. The plane's pilots, Captain Jürgen Schumann and First Officer Heinrich Baer, were forced to fly the plane to their destination of choice, which was eventually determined to be the Middle East. The hijackers' initial instructions were to take the plane to an airport in Libya. However, upon learning that they could not land there, the hijackers changed their course and directed the aircraft towards Dubai. They wanted to refuel and continue their journey to Somalia, where they believed they could negotiate with the authorities. As the journey progressed, the hijackers subjected the passengers to constant threats and violence. They demanded the release of the RAF prisoners and threatened to kill hostages if their demands were not met. They communicated their demands to the West German government, as well as to the international media, ensuring that the entire world was watching the crisis unfold. The German authorities, under Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, were faced with a difficult decision. They knew that the lives of the hostages were in immediate danger, but they also feared that giving in to the hijackers' demands would encourage further terrorism. They decided not to negotiate with the hijackers, but they understood the importance of keeping the passengers alive while devising a plan to resolve the crisis. The hijackers' demands and threats, however, escalated the situation, and the hostages' lives hung in the balance. The hijacked plane circled above the Mediterranean Sea as the German government coordinated efforts with other nations to find a resolution. Various countries, including France and Italy, were involved in the diplomatic negotiations. The hijackers continued to demand a safe passage to Somalia, where they hoped to find political asylum. The situation became even more tense as the hours passed, with the hijackers threatening to kill passengers every time their demands were not met. The passengers, many of whom were unaware of the gravity of the situation, tried to remain calm, but fear began to spread as the standoff wore on. The plane eventually arrived in Dubai, where the hijackers were denied permission to land. The hijackers then set their sights on another potential location, Aden, Yemen. While in midair, the hijackers communicated with officials in Aden who agreed to allow the plane to land. The plane touched down at Aden International Airport on October 17, 1977, after 2 days of flying across Europe and the Middle East. The passengers were exhausted, and the hijackers' grip on the situation seemed to be tightening. The hijackers continued to threaten the hostages' lives, demanding that the West German government provide a plane for their escape and the release of the RAF prisoners. In Aden, a tense standoff developed between the hijackers, who were holed up in the airplane, and the Yemeni authorities, who were attempting to manage the situation. The airport in Aden was not ideal for a rescue operation, as it was remote and lacked the security measures necessary to deal with such a high-stakes crisis. The hijackers' demands continued to be unyielding, and the passengers' situation grew more dire with each passing hour. At this point, the German government, working with other international intelligence agencies and counterterrorism units, formulated a plan for a rescue operation. The German counterterrorism team, known as GSG-9, had been trained for situations like this. They were experienced in dealing with hostage crises and had access to advanced technology as well as tactical expertise. The German authorities were determined to end the crisis without further loss of life, and GSG-9 was the last hope for the passengers of Lufthansa Flight 181. The rescue operation began at dawn on October 18, 1977. German commandos, operating with intelligence from the scene, surrounded the hijacked plane and prepared to storm the aircraft. The rescue team had to act quickly, as the hijackers had threatened to kill the hostages if their demands were not met. The German authorities knew that they had a small window of time to act before the situation deteriorated beyond their control. At the exact moment the rescue team was in position, the German commandos made their move. They stormed the plane, using their advanced training to overpower the hijackers and disarm them. The operation was executed with such precision that only one of the hijackers was killed during the assault. The other 3 were captured and later tried in Germany. Remarkably, all of the hostages were freed unharmed. The rescue of Lufthansa Flight 181 was a triumph of counterterrorism and a significant moment in the history of aviation security. It showed the world that dedicated training, international cooperation, and swift action could prevent a disaster. The operation also served as a reminder of the dangers of terrorism and the lengths to which governments would go to protect innocent lives. The hijackers' plot had failed, and the passengers of Lufthansa Flight 181 were able to return home safely. The events surrounding the hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 181 had far-reaching consequences. The German authorities' handling of the crisis was praised for its professionalism, and the success of the GSG-9 operation became a model for future counterterrorism efforts. The hijackers, however, were not forgotten. Their actions led to a reevaluation of how such threats were handled on a global scale. The hijacking also fueled the ongoing conflict between militant groups and governments, which would continue to evolve in the years that followed. The passengers of Lufthansa Flight 181, many of whom were understandably traumatized by the experience, were able to return to their lives, but the events of the hijacking left an indelible mark on them. For the crew and the German authorities, it was a testament to the power of coordinated action and the commitment to never giving in to terrorist demands. Kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe for more headline stories.